Hey everyone, and welcome to the Let's Do More show. I'm Chris Rufflin, and I'm so glad you're here. This podcast is all about powerful personal stories of resilience, recovery, and overcoming life's toughest challenges. Here we dive deep into real life experiences on perseverance and personal growth. We'll explore what it takes to develop a positive mindset and how to transform adversity into strength. Along the way, I'll be sitting down with inspiring individuals, including celebrities in recovery, to help break the stigma of addiction, talk about mental health, and provide hope to those who need it most. Let's Do More. It's about finding hope in the dark moments, surviving the unsurvivable, and learning how to manifest the life you desire. We'll uncover insights and lessons that not only help us push through life's toughest times, but also turn those experiences into a force for good in our communities. So whether you're looking for motivation, healing, or just a reminder that you're not alone, you're in the right place. Let's do more. All right. Hello. Welcome back to the Let's Do More show with Chris Rufflin here, your host and co-creator of the show. And I'm really excited today. As you guys know, this show is all about perseverance. It's all about a good success story. It's all about, what do we do to find that silver lining in the hard times in life? And how do we use that to, first of all, generate hope? And then from there, take that to a different level where we're actually out there helping mankind. And I actually have an old friend of mine on the show here today. We haven't connected for probably about 8-9 years, I would say. Here and there, I'd see things on Facebook and see what you and Linda are doing. And as I talked with you about before the show, you guys have been some of my favorite people. When I think of somebody who's well-rounded, somebody who is, doing the right thing and putting ethics and morals first, I always think of you guys. And I always think of you guys too when I think about what a successful relationship and marriage looks like. You guys definitely have just really been very good at supporting each other and doing just being the best humans you can be. And I think that's something that's really rare in today's, society. It's not the common thing. So why don't we start off, Christian? Why don't you give me a quick little background, introduction on yourself and kind of what you're up to, and we'll go into some more specific questions.
All right. Well, I guess I could start with right out of high school. I always wanted to be a stunt person. I wanted to be in the movies. I wanted to
That's right. Yeah.
crash things and fight and burn and fall and just destroy things and not get in trouble and get paid for it. And that's what I was as a teenager. So I kind of followed that ambition for a little while. It was hit and miss for the first few years, and but it did get me ingrained in the film industry pretty heavily. And I married my first wife when I was 27, had 3 kids. I just learned a lot with that first marriage. And and I think that's where, my wisdom comes from, if I have any to share.
Where it always comes from. His life experience.
I had one of the kids tell me my wisdom was outdated, and made me open my eyes to these young generations and what they have to deal with. And I feel for them, because to just even say that it's just so odd. Anyway, I got into the film industry, stayed in it on and off for about 40 years or so. Just retired. In that 40 years, I'm with my second wife. She brought to the table 4 kids, and I brought my 3, and went through the hell of divorce on both sides of the spectrum. And if anyone's listening and they've been divorced, they know there's never an easy divorce, right? There's never a
Right. Yeah.
in or out of that. Learned a ton that way. My wife and I started some different businesses. We started a CBD company. We obviously had our own production company. We had an aerial cinematography company where we'd provide the cinematography for
Very cool.
mostly corporate industrial commercials, that kind of thing. And then we had a location scouting and management company, all kind of in that film world, right? Because it's all I knew. About 2.5 years ago, maybe, my wife basically said, how many summers do you think we have left? And I have never thought.
Tough question.
Yeah. And I just went, that's it. Let's get uncomfortable. Let's change it up a little bit. And so we closed down our companies and just said, we're going to retire, hell or high water, do it no matter what it takes. We don't even have any of the answers. We're just going to trust in God. I'm very faithful, and I'm a Christian. I believe in Christ, and I believe universal laws are very real. They don't change for anybody for any reason. And so we got really faithful, and we prayed diligently to give us some answers. And we soon ran into a company now not around because of the SEC and different things, but it actually position on the blockchain, the world and the Web 3.0, that the whole future. And so we found ourselves investing our money into different programs and different things that are decentralized from all currencies, right? All regulatory agencies. And that's why the SEC with us, they want to control it. They want to see what we're making, but they can't because it's none of their business and it's offline. And obviously the world's going through some transitional experiences and dynamic dealing.
Off way of putting it. Yeah. It's a transitional phase.
But we found ourselves heavily vested, receiving certain dividends from different ecosystems online that were decentralized from all regulatory jurisdictions. So we started doing really, really well. We started getting just ridiculous amounts of money just flowing into our world in the blockchain. And then when we'd pull money out to pay our bills, so anytime you pull it out and you bring it right back into the US dollar, you can into the US dollar, then that's the jurisdiction of the SEC, that and the IRS and all that stuff. And so we pay our taxes on that, and then we pay our bills, and we buy a car or go on a trip or do whatever. So we decided to start traveling the world. We've traveled all over Europe and London and France, and we even went to Dubai twice, and we went to Seychelles, way out in the
Nice
Indian Ocean,
Yep.
Madagascar, and we were just living our dream, living because we're empty nesters. Our baby he's a Marine. He's 22 now. He's been in there 3 years, and we're just proud of all the kids. They've turned out really, really well, and they're all self-sufficient, all on their own, and which is a miracle, and so we just said, let's go.
It's a miracle.
Yeah. Let's go travel, and let's go experience some life and help some people along the way. That was another thing, because we could share the opportunity with other people wherever we were. And it was just as fun. So we now really what we do is spend our time focusing on helping others in a very genuine way, find their way forward and find their way into the future, and whatever they choose to do. We're not even, we can give them some options that have worked for us, but that's it. We're not out selling people. We're not out, I guess, in a roundabout way, that you are selling people because you're helping them, and then they want what you want, and then they ask, how did you get it? And if they're smart, they'll follow the way.
Yeah, I had a mentor tell me, no matter what, you're in sales. And I at the time was not. And I said, no, and I'm not in sales. And he said, are you married? I said, yeah. And he said, you're definitely in fucking sales.
You are.
But I think that's cool. So you guys have been traveling the world, kind of, and I think the underlying part of our conversation today is really going to be around exactly what you just mentioned: mindset and helping people. I'm at a stage of my life too, Christian, where it's like, I know for sure there's only some certain things you get to take with you, and that is memories, and also the way that you treated people here is a big impact on what happens on the other side. And that's for a whole other recording that I'm going to do on my near-death thing that happened. That's what we're here to do. We're here to help. We're here to help. And I think in today's society, it's really hard to find people that want to help for the reason of helping, right? We're such a transactional society. And so it's always about, sure, I'm going to do this for you, but am I going to get exchanged for $1? Are we going to get exchanged for a favor? Am I going to get exchanged for something political, right? And unfortunately, it's just not the way things have always been, and not the way they should be, but it is what it is. So
yeah,
that's very cool, man. What was your favorite place to travel?
I would say Seychelles. That was probably, it took us 32 hours to get there, but halfway I was like, I don't know if we made the right decision. And
yeah,
we got there and we stayed there for just under 3 weeks and stayed in 4 different, just gorgeous, 5-star, just crazy luxury. We go,
right,
gotta live it. Let's just do it. And we we did it. We were in a position where we were paying a couple grand a night for some of these places. We were more money, more than that was dropping into our accounts just off of dividends, and so that was, we thought we thought we were permanently retired. We're done. It's over. And then the SEC stepped in and did the thing.
The more I live life, the more I figure out that I've had several points in my life where I thought, this is it, I'm done.
Yeah.
I will never work again. And something happens. I think that is kind of God's way of just letting us know that maybe we're not done helping or sharing our story with other people, which is, something I want to say. I'm really grateful for you coming on the show, being vulnerable, sharing about your life.
Absolutely.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal because I know that there's going to be a lot of people that listen to these shows that might be struggling with something in life, right? There's going to be a lot of business owners struggling with their business, or maybe there's people that want to start a business and are struggling with the idea of that. I help a lot of people in recovery with addiction recovery. And so a big part of the base of our listeners are going to be people that either have a friend or family member that suffers with addiction or is in one themselves. And that's about 85% of our nation, by the way. 4 out of 5. It's the rare occasion you meet somebody who's not dealing with that or having a loved one they're watching kill themselves. And so the show is really all about the mindset and things like that. So tell me this. I want to get into kind of some questions to understand a little bit more about what your perception or your view on the way of thinking is when it comes to these things. Because I think out of a lot of people that I know, and I know we haven't talked for a long time, but I would say when I think of somebody, like I said, who's well-rounded or somebody that's been able to live a pretty full life, you guys have both gamuts of all of it, raising the kids, having businesses. What was the defining moment that pushed you to pursue an entrepreneurial journey? What was it that caused you to do that eventually?
It's I would say probably right after my divorce. My first wife, it was just kind of never enough, going from production to production and working a different set of disciplines on one production and another. And she's just think you're just bouncing around, and I was always bringing in the money. We were blessed with good stuff, but it just drove her crazy. And she just wasn't happy with me at all in what I was doing. And it's all I knew from right out of high school, really. And so right after that, I kind of went into a really heavy, deep depression for a good year after my divorce, because it hit me like just out of the blue. I didn't see it coming. And she had a child with the guy she was seeing at the time, and then she ended up marrying him. And so then I've got 3 kids, and they've got a little brother that I have nothing to do with. He's kind of the affair baby, if you will.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
We ended up bringing him into our lives. He's part of our lives too, because he didn't do anything wrong. We've just always loved him and accepted him, and he feels very warm and welcome in our family because we've told him he's always a part of it. But I really buckled down when I met Linda. So I got to give her credit, man, because her coming into my life, and mind you, I'm like pawning her off to friends, like, date her. I'm never doing this again. I'm never.
Yeah.
With having her go, I'm introducing her to, she went out with a bunch of my friends, and when she was going out with them, I'm sitting there calling her and texting her, "Are you okay? Everything good?"
That's funny.
So, but to answer your question, that she really, when we finally started realizing that we were just kind of meant for each other, because we both fell in love. And that's a broad term, but we really just hung out so much that we started going, why don't we should work together, because she's trying to support her kids on her own, because her ex-husband was a deadbeat, and I'm trying to help her, and I'm trying to pay child support and all these different things. So we just basically got together, partnered up, and said, let's do this. Let's put our helmets on, our crash helmets on, because we're going to hit some major bumps and doing what we don't know. And we just started doing anything and everything. That's really when it started hitting, about 20 years ago, when, we've been together almost 20 years. So I'd say 21 years ago, or no, 19 years ago, probably.
Crazy how fast that goes.
Yeah, we really started buckling down and saying we're going to do whatever it takes. So I kept working in film, but when I wasn't working a gig, I was always doing the entrepreneurial, educating myself and learning from successful entrepreneurs. I didn't want to learn from people who were selling me something who hadn't done it themselves.
And you bring up a good point there. There's two things you said there that I want to focus on for just a second. Number one, like most entrepreneurs and most people that are successful, you said something I've heard a lot, which is I started doing something on the side, right? And I find that most successful business owners don't just dump what they're doing
No.
and fall into it or have it given to them or be born into it. In fact, a lot of times when that's the situation, it turns out really bad for everybody involved. The other thing that you mentioned was that you found somebody who basically had what you wanted. You did what they did, so you get what they got. And I think there's a kind of a misconception in business about that, hey, I need to go to school and get an education for it. Number one, misconception. Number two, if I just work hard enough, it's going to work out. That's also wrong. Or if I just beat my head against the wall enough, I'll get through the wall. That's also not the way to do it. The most successful people that I know, and I'm sure that you know as well, have done exactly that. They have found people to learn and to mentor from, right? They're not doing it on their own.
Yep. I just, it's very, very true. I'm going to say something that most people, I would assume, would think is very irresponsible as a father of 7 kids, 4-step kids. I talked every single one of them out of going to college.
Well, yeah, I'm in that boat.
I explained to them that there's not one single thing you can't learn off the internet or somebody that you find from the internet at a fraction of the cost. And I knew if they were going to school too, I would be paying their tuition, which even makes it worse because I know the school system very well. I went 5 years and changed my major 6 times and had no degree because I was already making more money than any of my friends with degrees, and I was working in film. And so I'm just not, and that was back, that was a long time ago, but now it's even worse. I'm not unless you're going there to learn social skills and be social with other people, I'm not an advocate for formal education. I'm a massive advocate for education. You need to learn every day. I mean, I read books. I do the whole cliche. I read books. I listen to them. I don't really read them. I listen to them audible. I just fill my brain, my soul with every single thing that I claim I want. I mean, you can claim you want stuff in life. A lot of people claim they want it. I die to do it. But
sure, yeah.
If you want to quit smoking, don't put cigarettes in your mouth. How much easier can that be? Don't, but they'll keep smoking. And when we're on the road, we're teaching people how to invest their money if they have savings or a 401k or any of the retirement. Instead of getting low rate of returns over time, it's the way they have their money working for them is to double it. It's going to take 30 years. Half of them don't have 30 years to enjoy doubling their already very little amount of money.
Yeah, I always joke and I say you're not going to have much fun if you're trying to cliff dive at 80 years old with your walker.
Yeah, you're not.
You're just not going to enjoy the money.
Yeah, let's face it. You're gonna even do that. You're not going to be able to dive because you're going to be so worn down emotionally and mentally and spiritually that and physically that you're not, even if you could go on one of those dream trips, you're not going.
Right. You'll be lucky to make it to the cliff, let alone get off of it.
Yeah. So we're teaching people how to, we're selling these next step programs where there's these 3-day events and they're by the best people on the planet who are doing it, who are paying billions of dollars a month on doing exactly what they're teaching people to do. They personally do that. And so that's why they're one of our clients, is because we love to work for them and love to make those things happen. And we get to be a part of helping other people do it. And before we'll close a deal at the end of the room of the preview event that we do, I'll talk people out of it as fast as I will talk them into it. And so in that sense, you're not selling. You're actually just trying to help them make the best decisions for their life. And so if they buy into the system, the company's not going to do it for you. You got to get off your ass and do it. You've got to do the work, but you don't know what to do until you go to this 3-day. They'll put a game plan together for you. They'll hold your hand for a year after and just make sure that you're doing it. But guess what? You've got to love work, and you got to be able to learn and retain and comprehend, and then go back and relearn what you didn't retain, and be consistent and step by step, and that will grow them generational financial security. And otherwise, just keep working at McDonald's, man. Just you're not going to be you're just not going to be happy later in life. That's why when my wife sat me down, I'll be 60 next year, and my wife said, when she said that a couple of years ago, how many summers do we have left? I was just going, I don't know. I can't even depend on my next breath. We have no guarantees.
There is no guarantee tomorrow. I think that's a big thing right there to talk about too, is that, and it's something I quite honestly think about. One of the things I don't want to do is lay on my deathbed with any type of regret. I regret that I tried this, that I did that I didn't do my best, whether that comes into personal relationships, my recovery, my entrepreneurial side of life, or helping others. I want to at least be able to lay there and say, I gave it everything I had, and I didn't let fear stop me. The reality is fear just really stands for false evidence appearing real.
Right.
It's something that our brain has created to where we're afraid we're going to lose something that we already have, or afraid we're not going to get something that we want. And so what we end up doing, my experiences with us as human nature, we end up just kind of staying in a stuck spot and just existing. And I kind of know you feel the same way about it, but I don't think life is just about existing, right?
No, not to me, man. Being the Christian that I am, I believe I'm here in the service of God.
Absolutely.
He needs me I just ask for guidance. There's a primary song. I grew up LDS in the LDS church, and there's a song in this primary song that I say in my prayers. It's, please lead me, guide me, walk beside me, help me find the way, teach me all that I must do to live with you one day. And I mean that, every word of that, genuinely. Just guide, walk beside me. And I'll tell you, man, that without my faith, I don't know if I could have handled this life. I'm not just saying that.
I don't know how people do without it. I mean, I can tell you, I've lived on the other side and done it without it, and it sucked.
Yeah, and
it absolutely sucked. And the reality is, I joke around a lot with people when they say, hey, I don't believe in God, or I'm not spiritual. And this podcast isn't all about God and spirituality, but it's a big part of my life, and I'm not afraid to talk about it.
Yeah.
And hopefully, it can be a big part of most people that listen in on the show. But number one, we're pretty naive to think if there's something that's not bigger than us out there. I think and the older that you get, the more times you have in your life where you're like, I shouldn't be alive right now, but I am. And then secondly, if I were to call my top 10 most spiritually skeptical friends, I said, hey, there's an asteroid coming to hit the Earth. It'll be here in about 4 minutes. I just want to give you a heads up. Every one of those 10 people would drop to their knees and pray. There's not one of them that would go jump on YouTube and try to disprove religion in those 4 minutes they had left on the planet. And so,
great.
I find that a lot of times we just have a resentment against our perception of God. I was raised LDS too. I consider myself more of a Christian than anything, but I'm not like spiritually, religiously connected that way.
Like more of an agnostic.
So tell me, broader question I want to ask you, how do you define success personal and professional? You're 60 years old. You've been through a lot of life experiences. You've had ups, you've had downs, a little bit of everything. I mean, what do you define success by? Is it the amount of money in the bank account?
No.
What is it?
It really isn't. Success is living a successful life will be long after I'm gone. People will be able to say he loved me. He was a good influence on me. Whether he was right or wrong, he was always hoping that he was helping. But let's face it, in this crazy, corrupt world, you have to, just by the design of it, right? By the controlling forces, we have to have a lot of money to have freedom with our. And if we don't have freedom with our time, it's impossible to reach out and genuinely help anyone that needs help in any way that you can help. So success to me is just, did I figure a way out to my time freedom? That's success. If you do, talking on a worldly level, not a spiritual level, but on a worldly level, success, it's not the amount of money. It's because I could go live in Bali tomorrow. I have
for next to nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a friend who lives there. He moved there 4 or 5 years ago with his wife and 2 kids. And he just wanted to learn to surf, and they've stayed there the whole time. They rented a house right on the beach with an infinity pool, a cook, a gardener. And they have the car down there. They spend less than $3,000 a month, including the food.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's wild. I mean, I think that's one thing, you just reminded me of something, which is that anybody who lives here in the US, yeah, we deal with a lot of different things and we all have our own views and stuff, but we're living better than about 95% of the rest of the world,
Oh yeah.
and when it comes to the way the dollar stretches somewhere else, I mean, if you want to be grateful, go take yourself to Bangladesh for a couple of days, or just go stop at the airport, really, and come back. So tell me, so in your view, success, time freedom, I agree 100%. Time is the only asset I have that I cannot create more of. I cannot buy more of it. I can't get the time wasted back. I think it was an old mentor of mine who he used to say things to me like, Chris, Oprah Winfrey, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Jeffrey Bezos, these people all have the exact same day that you do. So what's the difference? What's the problem? You have the same 24 hours. And I think it's really, working smarter versus harder, which is a lot more simple to do than some people think, but it plays a big part. So I want to shift the conversation a little bit, Christian, over to something that's important to me. And I talk about it on the show a lot, which is mindset, right? In fact, I've been called a toxic optimist. I've had people tell me that my optimism is going to be the death of me. I've had people tell me that, why do you got to be so fucking positive all the time? And, the truth is in my life is I'd be a dead man if I wasn't. And I wouldn't have any of the success and experience, any things in my life. Everything I've got on a vision board in my office here, an achieve board, or these masks behind me, these all came from different places I traveled. That none of them were accidents. They were all manifested thoughts. And I know you think along the same line. So what type of mindset how big of mindset does a role of that play in achieving success? And how do you kind of keep your mindset going? How do you cultivate this growth mindset?
Gratitude.
Thank you.
For me, it's so easy. It hurts. It's stay even in your deepest, darkest hell, at your worst day. Just find what you're grateful for. And it's almost impossible to even go there, to even start to look for that, because you're space. So pause and pray to God, pray to do just the universe, whatever suits your whatever, but just trust that something much, much, much bigger than you is absolutely in control. They or it, or however you want to look at it. Quantum physics is real. It's just the study of how miracles happen, in my opinion.
I love that.
Yeah, I watched the movie when I was going through my divorce. I was in hell. I told you. I went to this girl, Christiana Turner. I don't know if you know her. Do you know? She's a.
Oh yeah. I know the name. Yep. Yeah.
LP.com. I'll plug her. She's an amazing woman from Germany.
I need to reach out to her and have her on the show. That'd be a great conversation.
Great guest. She's my favorite people. I haven't talked to her for years and years, but she literally got through to me. I paid her some money, went to her house and spent an hour or two with her. And she did some exercises that literally proved to me right in the moment, real time. I watched a miracle happen. I watched it. Something that was impossible. She put me in front of my wife. I talked to my wife, that was divorcing me. And she was about to take me to court, and with a bunch of these lies. And she knew it, I knew it, but the courts were in her favor. And whole other show. She said, just talk to her. She's listening to you. Listen, imagine her standing here. And so I went through this thing. I felt
right. Visualize it.
Yeah. I kind of felt stupid, but then she said, just feel it and talk to her. And I started talking to the wall basically. And I just broke down, and I was talking to her. And I had one day for the court. The next day was the court thing. And when I left that, her house, my soon to be ex had left a message for me saying the same words that I said to that wall. And just that she would call. I mean, it was literally there's no coincidence involved. And so that's
yeah, I don't believe in coincidences, bro. I mean, there's definitely, and you got to go either way on it. You can't be halfway in between believing in coincidences and believing everything has either a divine purpose or is happening for a reason. I think the mindset of thinking that life is not happening to me, it's happening for me, is a big thing, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're not. I mean, let's be real for a second. I mean, it doesn't matter what background you have, whether I'm talking to someone in recovery, an entrepreneur, or somebody who's working a W-2 job, life is hard. life has its challenges for every single one of us. There's not one person out here that's getting out of here alive, you know, and what we get to do, in my view, is we get to share this idea of like thoughts are things, you know, what you say to yourself, what you say out loud, the written word's way more powerful. And I find that most entrepreneurs and people that have been successful in life, they have a very pronounced fundamental belief in this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And especially when you're trying to get through tough times. You know, I know how silly it feels to sit there. You know, I'm a big believer in gratitude. I'm going to be just very transparent here, as I only like to be, which is that there are some days I don't want to be grateful for anything. In fact, the idea of being grateful and me being happy and grateful when I feel like crap pisses me off, you know? And I find myself, I try to do a gratitude list every day, but I find myself, you know, hey, I'm grateful for my eyes. I'm looking around the room. I'm grateful for the doorknob. Oh, look, I'm grateful because I have some water, you know? But sometimes these like exercises of visualization and trying to create what you want can be silly. But you know what's more silly than that is thinking the other way and constantly creating the things you don't want and not believing that it works. Because here's the thing, it works either way. Either you can focus it to, you know, living the life of your dreams, whatever that looks like for you. There's no wrong answer. I don't judge anybody.
Yep.
Or you can focus it to destroying the life that you have or living the life you don't want. Your thoughts are always at work, right? Every cell in your body is listening.
Yeah. I think there's a, in this life, however you want to look at it religiously, you know, I could be completely wrong in my faith. Like in reality, like I don't know. It's faith. I choose to have in Christ because there's a scripture that says faith is the substance of things hoped for. Hope. So faith is the substance of things hoped for and the things that you don't see. And so I know I'm one person who loves Buddhism and everything it teaches and all. I love it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. There's some cool concepts.
Faith in that because in the ultimate faith in that, I put my faith in something that I hope for ultimately. I hope to be with my family again. I hope to see my mother who just passed away and my dad that passed away 22 years ago. I hope to be with my kids and the people. I hope I see you again, man. And the only thing in the world that teaches that is Christianity. And so I don't want to come back as a Beatle. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how much good in the world the Beatles going to do, but you know, it's true. And I mean, I'm no expert on this stuff. I have died several times and I've been able to come back here. And I can tell you, some people, when these things happen to me, said, "Oh, you were just in psychosis, you imagined it," or "That didn't really happen," you know, and it doesn't matter what somebody else believes because it did happen.
You know it.
And I was shown certain things, and fortunately, I did get to see a lot of people that had passed on, not only friends and family, acquaintances, family members of family members.
Awesome.
You know, lines and lines of generations of ancestors that were there to be able to give me advice. I mean, I was even shown, let's talk about quantum physics. I am a devout believer in it. I don't proclaim to understand it because we don't understand it yet. Nobody does. But they are now proving that quantum physics is real. You know, Hadron Collider and a lot of experiments they've done are telling us it's real. But one of the things that I was shown on their side was I was shown like 10 different lifetimes of what my life could look like and told that I could go back into any one of these timelines at this moment right now and live out that life. And I had a choice to make, or I could stay here and I could be in the ultimate amount of peace, love, kindness, you know, warm fuzzies that you could ever even imagine. I can't put it into words. We don't have the right words down here to put into words the colors or the feelings or the way people talk. It wasn't language. It wasn't, I mean, it was, but it wasn't. I don't know. I'm going to do another show about this whole experience and have someone interview me about it. You know, the one thing that was for sure to me is that there is something on the other side and that something wants us to live our best life, right? It doesn't want us to come down here and to stress out and to, you know, we all have challenges in life. I think that what we have to do, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, is we have to find the silver lining because just like what you just said, what I believe is that silver lining is where the hope is. So if something bad happens to me and I look at that as I am bad or I internalize it with shame or guilt, right? It's a totally different outcome. I mean, my entire life could be disrupted by this. I could never be the same. My kids could never be the same. I could pass it down, you know, epigenetically, as they say, or I could look at it like this happened to me because I'm about to have something really good happen, or this had to happen so I could experience this and grow from it this way to teach somebody else. And that way of thinking is just a lot more productive way to think. Do you have any, what would be some advice you could give on staying focused and resilient?
If you want to stay focused and resilient, I've always said you have to want it. You you can't just want.
Yeah. What does that mean?
You have to want it before you can want it. Meaning you just have to take things. You have to define what you really want to be resilient with and why. And you need to understand why do you want to, you got to have to break it down and analyze it a little bit, not overanalyze it, but just be clear in your head. Like, why do I want to be resilient with this? What's the point? Is it just resilient and for me to be a good example that I can do it? No, you want to be, I think the best way to stay resilient is to be very clear on your objective that you're focused on, and to stay the course in that resilience. You wake up, go to bed every night and give gratitude for your source. For me, it's God, Christ. That's how I define it. And when you wake up, before you even pick a phone call up or look at your phone, the least you should do before you do is, just go into a deep state of gratitude and let your source know that you're grateful for this experience of life. And for me, that's how I stay resilient. That's how I stay.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah.
And look, man, I'm on social media, when you said you saw me on Facebook, I look like this. Oh, I'm this perfect, we're the perfect couple. Of course, we're only going to share the good stuff.
Right. No one puts their fights on Facebook.
No.
And I don't think that would work out.
We argue, kill me, and I want
Yeah.
time. And then which makes when you mend, you just get stronger. That knot, there's another thing, niche in the notch,
Right.
And
agreed.
So it just makes you stronger and stronger. And that's what I'm so grateful for. I'm grateful for when I get sick, or I'm grateful when I get in a crash in the car. I'm great. I'm literally, you can find.
There's always a silver lining. There always is.
But there's so many people who have been misinformed, maybe at very young ages. Yeah,
I think a big part of it, unfortunately. Yeah.
Very negative. I was incredibly blessed with a very positive father figure who was, I can't think of a negative word or connotation I ever heard out of his mouth. He was just this flawless, consistent, positive person and he could course correct you when you're negative in a loving way. The older I get, the more I miss him, and I actually just appreciate that in my life. So I was extremely blessed, and it gave me more reason to not. There's no excuses for me to turn out like a rugrat, man. I have no excuse. I had amazing, imperfect parents, but their imperfections are just laughable,
Well, I think, like speaking of childhood trauma and that whole thing, I mean, there's very few children who haven't had it on some level, even if it's just being bullied in school, that causes trauma, right? There's this ACE exam or ACE test they give kids, which is supposed to be able to predict, like, do they have a higher risk at having addictions? Do they have, whatever else? And I think there is something to be said for it. Like, if we're outside of quantum physics and we're talking just, the physical, sure. I mean, these things impact you. But the one thing I know is that what we do with how it impacts us is completely up to us. So, for example, if I have a lot of trauma and PTSD, maybe I didn't cause that to myself. Maybe I had no right for someone to cause that to me. However, it is completely within my right to do something about it, right? To do EMDR, to go to therapy, to learn more about yourself, to do the shadow work, all these things that you can do. Those things are within our control. And as human beings, we're control junkies. We're instant gratification junkies. And the media and everything around us doesn't make it any easier. I mean, it's all tailored to that, right? So what do? You mentioned a couple of things at the beginning of the call, Christian, as far as investing in yourself, because clearly you don't get to a point in your life where you're able to travel the world and retire and do all these cool things and help other people and have this mindset without doing something right and having some growth. What do you do to invest in your personal growth?
Go a lot of books, a lot of positive videos. I got kind of phased out of some of the events and things, like, because we were putting on events for so long with our company and the Tony Robbins stuff, and which definitely not saying anything negative about it, but it just got too cliche for me, and so I just started
Yeah, you get to a burnout with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's at a different point. Sometimes that's just Tony Robbins might be the perfect thing for somebody in the moment, and just go do it. Go sign up, invest money into him, because he's making ridiculous amounts of money, but he's actually doing what he set out to do. He's accomplished it. He's successful. You should give him praise and say, man, I'd like to go do that and follow it. Another one of my favorite humans on earth is Marshall Silver. I don't know if you know Marshall Silver, but Marshall, we did his events for many, many, many years and became part of his inner circle and stuff. And he's the best I've ever seen, bar none. So Marshall Silver's been a major, major influence on us, and we have nothing but just unconditional gratitude for this guy. And he's really helped us along. We don't do much with him anymore, but we talk to him all the time, and we network with him, and we send people to his events and all these different things, because it's nothing us really. We just help people get on their way. And so that's what we do. We basically, and I say we because when I talk about me, it's Linda and I are literally kind of
Right. You guys are a team. Absolutely. Yeah.
So we both, our mantras and all the different things that we focus on to stay focused and invested in our futures is together. That was just an agreement we made when we first got together, and we've
Yeah, I love that.
really well. I mean, we've had our ups and downs for sure, but we don't ever share those ups and downs on social media because it's just so, it's very vulnerable for certain people. So you don't want to, I love transparency. I mean, there's nothing I wouldn't talk about even on the negative things, but not in social media, not the right platform.
Well, yeah, and I think social media, I mean, my intention with this show and everything I'm doing around it, which is a lot of social media focused, the goal is to help people. Whatever else comes of it is just going to happen.
Absolutely.
I have this belief that if you help enough people get what they want, or you help enough people out, then you really never have to worry. And, that just is backed up by my faith in God and a higher power, because, that's what I was told we're supposed to do. In fact, there was 2 takeaways from my near-death experience. One of them was, we are here to love unconditionally. Right? Our neighbor, our spouse, our friends, our family, and the big one I was taught was ourselves. The second thing was, we're here to be helpful to mankind. And so I'm the same way as you. I don't post the negative stuff on social media. I don't really feed into that monster. It's already got enough food. But I also think it was cool about what you were saying with, the thing I want people to take away from this part of our conversation is that you do have to do something to self-improve if you want yourself to improve. I don't know if that sounded silly, but you have to invest, just like you invest money to retire. If you're not investing time and energy in yourself, getting to know who you are, figuring out what your ups and downs look like, actually truly loving yourself, how can you ever expect to love somebody else or accept love from somebody else?
I think you said it perfectly, actually. I've been through those things so many times, with Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, and every time something new comes up, we go and, you can't be shy in investing in yourself. What I would say is, don't be afraid of taking money, even if you have to go find the money and go into debt. There's people say, I just don't want debt, or I don't want this. Those are excuses, man. Just go find it.
I mean, they're happy to have debt on Black Friday for the 75-inch TV. What I love is I really like to help open people's eyes to the fact that we live in a marketing world. You don't have to buy into it. You know what I mean? And I've invested in myself from the first time I was 18 years old. I met a guy at a gas station who was an entrepreneur. He was driving a nice car. He's 30 years old. I just got out of high school, and I felt prompted to talk to this guy. Now I know it was a God moment in my life. And he said, look, kid, and he called me a kid because I was 18. He was 30. He was a kid now in my standards. But he said, if you'll sit down, pay attention, shut up, and never quit, I'll teach you what I do. And that led into this arena of learning from other mentors. I can't count. I don't have a college education, but I've easily spent $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 on workshops, seminars, books, tapes when they had tapes back. I know you remember tapes. If you were listening to this going, what's a tape? It's okay, look it up. But yeah, man, it's important.
Yeah, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. I would say daily.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because if there is a devil, which I know there is, but if there is a devil, He is creating conflict from the most
Constantly.
levels of life, families. The list goes on. Co-work, society, governments, politics, all this stuff, war, and it's getting really bad right now. That's why I say a daily routine against that influence is a must. It's critical. Critical.
It is critical. In recovery, we talk about having a daily reprieve based on our spiritual condition. And what that means to me is, I learned a lot of things from recovery that I'm like, I wish I could teach this to the world. Some of them are things that we keep sacred and stuff like that. But, in different programs I'm part of. But, the thing is like, that's really what all we have as human beings in general is we have today. Tomorrow's not promised. The next breath, like you said earlier, is not promised. And we do have a daily reprieve based on our spiritual condition, because if you're not spiritually fit, you're going to fall into these things a lot worse. If you don't believe in magic, if you don't believe in miracles, if you don't believe in no coincidences, it's so easy to believe in coincidences and talk yourself into it. But the thing is that's the easy way out, and it's the most unfulfilling way as well. Yeah, man, it's a huge thing.
It's like I've been called a conspiracy theorist for probably 30 years now, because 30 years ago I was talking about chemtrails and all these different things. And you got to get to a point in your life where you have to become a duck. It just doesn't matter what,
Yeah.
and you just kind of, because, look at it. Conspiracy theorists we were all out there trying to warn people about the vaccine, about all these things. And now it comes around.
And now there's proof. Yeah.
And even now, people are so conditioned, their cognitive dissonance, that you hear that phrase. Just they will not stop listening to the authorities, no matter how much you've proven without question as a conspiracy realist that these people have been corrupt and they've had an agenda, and they've orchestrated a lot of propaganda and a lot of rhetoric around and then they call the disinformation
The crazy ones. Yeah. Yeah, I've been called a conspiracy theorist too, and even by ones closest to me. And it's like, okay, you can have your beliefs. I'm not going to judge you either, but I think there's a lot more power and empowerment in being aware, at least, and being open-minded.
Yeah.
Right. It's not so much as being a conspiracy theorist as it is being open to any idea. I mean, look, 20 years ago we didn't have the Hadron Collider, and it wasn't proving that atoms function differently than we know they do today.
Right.
They weren't proving. Quantum physics was this fairy tale thing that is now becoming the 4-liter. I mean, it's like the groundbreaking science right now is quantum physics.
Yeah.
It's respected. It's like, wow, you're in quantum physics. And at the end of the day, thoughts are things. What we think about becomes actions. What actions become, our foreseeable future. And that is also at its basic level. That's also quantum physics, right?
Right.
I mean, it's all it is that, visualization, there's a reason that we are powerful manifestors. And unfortunately, to your point you just mentioned, human beings, our nature is not to be kind and loving and helpful to mankind. Our nature is to be selfish. Our nature is to be of a lack mindset. Our nature is to be manipulative. And unless you're working on yourself, you're going to do those things. So to think that we live on this planet with billions of people, and there's a big chunk of those people not working on themselves, of course they're going to fall into that. You got to be pretty naive to think that marketing companies are not trying to get your dollar.
Right. And then
you know what I mean?
Lack of resources and the lack of abundance and the lack of, and that I'm always the victim. So it's their fault. They owe me this. And it's all out of desperation due to a lack of faith. And even before the lack of faith, the reason they have a lack of faith in something is because they just don't have the knowledge, and you have to have humility to find that knowledge, or even want to have that knowledge.
And you have to want it for sure, like you said.
And so you have to, life is a beautiful thing, man. You're a miracle already. Just the odds of you coming into this existence as you,
trillions to one,
just astonishing. You probably couldn't even figure it out.
I was reading this article, and I don't know how much validity it is. I didn't research the article, just FYI, but apparently science has been able to see this moment when the sperm meets the egg, and there's actually an energetic explosion they've now caught.
A star.
Right, because they've been able, and it almost looks like a nebula or something like, and, I think we see that everywhere in nature. We see it everywhere in science, that all these things are replicated. And, I was talking about this stuff. It's funny you mentioned this, and being a conspiracy theorist. when I first got into business 18 years ago and had these mentors that were going to Tony Robbins and Robert Kiyosaki and, Brian Tracy events and stuff like that, I would go with them and tag along and have the great fortune of meeting a lot of those people at certain points. Of course, I paid the ticket to get there, and to meet them, but still, I think it's a great part of my story. And, they just operated a little bit differently. And it was like, I could either buy into the ether of positive thinking and see how my life went that way, or I could buy into the thinking of this world is just happening to me and there's nothing I can do about it. And the number one thing you can do about the way you feel about the world is change the way you interact with it. You can always change you. You can't change them or it, but you can change you.
And the way you're going to choose to interact with it, it's going to be the way you choose to see it in the big picture. Is the glass full or is it empty? Pretty simple. I don't know how people can't just dig down and really look at their life and think, I am incredibly lucky and I'm incredibly blessed. I don't have like I'm renting a basement room in someone's house and I'm what's my problem? And just victim. Be grateful for that room. Be grateful for your ability to pay for the room. Be grateful that you have be grateful for every damn breath you've got. Sincerely grateful, and better things will come. On this movie, I was telling you kind of back up with Christiana Turner. She goes, there's this new movie at the Tower Theater. And look at it's called What the Bleep Do We Know?
Well, it's a great movie. If you want to get introduced to this concept, it's mind blowing. I remember the first time I watched that.
Yeah, nights in a row. I drove all the way from Draper to that thing 2 days. The first time, I actually cried in it because
mind blowing.
The perception of Dr. Emoto and those water molecules changing with a simple what's prayer? It's thought. You're throwing.
It's thoughts. Thoughts have more energy than anything else.
Yeah, it's intention. And so if you throw out energy to a water molecule, no physical manipulation whatsoever, and you send love, it turns into this beautiful snowflake formation. And when you throw the F word into it, or you throw or hate and all these, and the water physically
changes.
And so, and then when we're like, they say we're 70% water, I think we're more like 90+% water. If we can do that with one molecule, with one thought, what can we do? We can heal anything.
You really can.
And your opportunities, that's what quantum physics is explaining, is the power of what's it called? Neurolinguistics programming.
Yeah.
You're programming your mind when you're being positive. You're programming your mind. Marshall Silver always teaches. He's the best hypnotist in the world. He is.
Well, there's something to it. It's huge. Yeah.
Explained to me everything all day long in everyone is hypnotism. And he gave me a perspective of what I was watching with What the Bleep Do We Know? And it all just came together. And I'll tell you, man, no one's more powerful than my wife when she does. Like if we want to do something,
I have a theory, man. I think women are way more powerful manifestors by far. The problem is they also were gifted this trait of, for a lot of them, I shouldn't lump people together, but a trait of also like a higher insecurity level. And some of that's generated by our society, right? So what happens is like if these things that were being said to water are impacting water molecules like that, imagine what people are saying to themselves, because we don't know what people say to themselves on a daily basis. You can guess, you can hear some of it, but if it's coming out with these words, it's definitely a lot worse with the ones in here. And, I think it's awesome to be able to have that self-reflection, Christian. And, we could probably go on for hours and hours. I did want to ask you kind of one last thing, or a couple last things. If you go back in time, what advice would you give your younger self, knowing what you know now?
Be more patient and humble and find gratitude in every breath.
That's awesome. I love that. That's very cool, man. All right. Well, and lastly, I'm really grateful you came on the show. I've been wanting to reconnect you for quite some time, and I know we'll do more stuff, and I can't wait to sit down and actually have a longer conversation, all this stuff. We just have a lot of like-minded things, and I appreciate that about you. And really, I should also have Linda on here. I should have both of you on the same time, but we'll have her on as well, because I love her way of thinking as well. As far as what you guys are doing now and helping people, is there anything you want to share on the show about where people can go to find out more about the events that you're doing and what those are intended to help people with? Do you want to throw out any
Well,
a shameless plug here?
not really. I mean, just we still in our heads we're still retired. We just are just doing some stuff for our client, tax lien code, but taxliencode.com is the company. They're our client, and we worked for them, and we put on their events, and they pay our company, and so we have one company going, but we're still retired.
Hey, I know you look, you're 60, man. Emphasize that.
Yeah.
Stay with it. Stick with it.
We have just a kind of a little free Weebly page that's called findmyway.info.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody wants to reach out and get a hold of us, we're happy to reach back to them and share some things that have worked for us. And but because of the SEC and all these different things that they're outside their jurisdiction and they're trying to control, the whole thing. We just have to be very careful the way we share information about the decentralized way that we were able to hit our mark. So, but yeah, that findmyway.info. And then if people want to learn how to invest in tax liens and deeds and get a very high rate of return guaranteed by state mandates and stuff like that, risking it in the banks. I think the banks today are the most risky place you can have your money. And so we don't keep our money there. We invest in liens and deeds and different things like that. And while we're waiting for our assets to open back up to us. But anyway, if that is a shameless plug right there.
Look, when there's marketing stuff on this show, we're just going to tell you it's marketing and we're trying to get you to buy something. I mean, like there's no NLP marketing happening here. And again, the foundation for the show is really about helping others and just getting the word out about, what we can do to think better, be better, do more,
Nothing.
Well, man,
there's nothing better to watch a total stranger become an instant friend and see him a few weeks or a few months or years, whatever it is down the road, and that you were that pivotal moment for them that they found success. So that's
a cool thing. Yeah.
That's why we do what we do.
Yeah. Well, I think your heart's in the right place. Well, awesome, man. I told you we keep to an hour, and I know we've given off so many. I mean, gosh, if someone were to listen to this show or watch it and just pull out one or two little tidbits you mentioned, I think they could live a very, very long, fulfilled, happy life, man. And I look forward to connecting with you soon. Once again, thanks so much, bro, for coming on and sharing this with you. I feel like you and I could talk for hours. We could do a 5-hour show and we just keep going.
Just need to do a nice long lunch when we get back sometime.
Let's do it. Let me know when you're back and I'll do it.
Absolutely, man.
Awesome.
It's been a privilege, brother. You look great.
Thanks. I appreciate it. It's been, I've had some rough years leading up to this point, and I'm excited to be on a different trajectory. And, with that being said, if you are, here listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on all of our social media at Let's Do More .life or Let's Do More Life. That's YouTube, X, Instagram, Facebook. I guess we're going to TikTok now because we're okay today on TikTok. But, if you're struggling with anything that you need to overcome, please reach out to one of those social media channels. We will always get back with the messages. If you know somebody who has a great story to share or something they overcame or something they could offer to this show to help the world at large, please reach out to me directly through those channels. And my assistant or myself will reply to you and get you lined up. And once again, that is the Let's Do More show. Let's go out there and let's all try to do some more.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Let's Do More. I hope you found inspiration, hope, and some powerful takeaways to help you on your own journey of growth and resilience. Remember, no matter what you're facing, you have the strength to overcome it and the power to create positive change in your life and community. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, download, and review the podcast. It really helps us reach more people who need to hear these stories. And don't forget to follow us on social media and stay connected and be part of the Let's Do More community. You can find us on Facebook at Let's Do More Podcast, Instagram and TikTok at Let's Do More.life, X at Let's Do More Life, and our primary channel is on YouTube at Let's Do More. We'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts, share your stories, or let us know what topics you would like to hear about next. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, remember, let's keep pushing forward, inspiring each other, and doing more for ourselves and the world around us. Take care, and I'll see you on the next show.